Good. Hi everyone. So, we're here now. If you have anything you want me to kind of follow up on or chat about, for the people that are here, there's nothing planned. So, like today is like week 5. It's just like a bit of like a chance to catch up on any lingering queries people have about the assignment. Next week's all going to be about the exam, and maybe we'll chat through a couple of queries then as well. I assume many of you are kind of probably tired and fatigued and don't have a lot of questions, so you don't have to have questions. It's more just, does anyone have anything they'd like me to kind of chat about or discuss till we run out of questions or we hit 8 o'clock, whichever one comes sooner. Yeah, I mean, regarding anything, but I guess I just assumed it would be assignment 3 because I don't know what anything else is fine. So Sam says, just for double checking, is it okay for me to not use context? Yeah, it is. Largely in an application like the one you have, there's extremely little stuff that you have to deal with globally, right? Like most stuff is either going to live in components or it's going to be reasonable to pass through the component tree. Like for instance, you're going to go get a whole bunch of listing data in a component, and then all the listings, which probably are components themselves, you'll pass through to those components just through props. The main things that are probably going to live everywhere, as I can tell, are token, maybe like logged in, like a couple things like that. So like it's not much. So whether you use context or local storage, or you pass it down through props, I don't think it's really going to matter. The use context lecture, I think, largely came up as an attempt to be like, here's a solution for it. Though this afternoon, I did actually put another Canva lecture that was just finished on state management, but that's for like more advanced users. That's like use context is like the hacky way to deal with global state management. Nicholas says, for all the listings page, spec says booked listings should come first. Can I put them in their own section at the top with a hide show booking and then below all the filtered listings? Yeah, that's totally up to you. Like again, the point of our spec being vague is that, again, we wanted to give you a chance to be like, this is how I think it works the best. As long as it satisfies the criteria, it's like that sounds cool. So go for it is the short answer. Because the criteria just says the bookings need to be up the top. So or first. So as long as they're literally first, it's gonna be okay. Cool. Any other questions? I get the impression you're all not swimming in questions, so we probably won't take a break tonight. We'll probably just go through until we're kind of done. But how's everyone going with assignment 3? How was the lecture with Zane? Was that all enjoyable for you all? Hope that was fun. I think Zane's really engaging, really smart, really, really smart person as well, which is really good. Nicholas says, question in relation to junior front-end roles. How much algorithm study should we do? Yeah, it's dependent on the company. Like, there aren't many companies that are higher. Like, a lot of front-end work these days, from what I can tell, appears to be like data science work or DevOps work, where there are certain roles where you can get away with not having like a thick foundational COMP6080 knowledge set. And there are some that require it. It really would vary company by company, but I wouldn't say there's any standard answer to it. Yeah. The nature of front end is the majority of building front end doesn't really deal with scale problems the same way that kind of server side stuff does. So I think realistically the the consequences of bad software architecture or bad software design on the front end tend not to play out as much in the world of security and performance as much as they do just like very difficult maintainability of code and maybe an increased chance of bugs. So yeah, I think that's probably why it's a little less critical. Like if I interviewed someone for a front end role, I want to make sure they had a bachelor degree, but I don't think I would be, you know, quizzing them on binary trees or anything. Any other questions tonight, or are we all feeling tired and want to get back on with our lives? Nicholas says, is a bachelor degree a must? I see a lot of self-taught devs getting jobs in the field. I, at the moment, would only hire people with actual computer science backgrounds because you really need them. I think that's really important when things start to get more serious because you need good problem solvers. Like it's all well and good to hire someone who knows React.js. And you know, if you're running out of qualified people, you might as well hire more people that don't have the same qualifications. So that's not like a, you know, if you don't have a bachelor degree, you're useless or anything. That's just like a, I think there's a lot of merit in people who actually understand computers and understand the science of computers. Understand data, just all these things, you know, it could be self-taught. It's just a lot of self-taught people tend to, it's not so much that self-taught's bad, it's that a lot of self-taught people I see do tend to focus naturally and understandably on the immediate problems to solve, you know, and they haven't actually spent a lot of time dealing with software design or dealing with other stuff, you know, data layers, software architecture, which again in itself isn't bad if they've been doing software for a long time. But you know, if you get someone who's done a 3-month course in React and hasn't been programming for more than 12 months, there's usually, you notice a difference in the way that they'll think, and that'll go away with time, but depends what you're looking for. I think the bigger thing about front end is that it's such a good skill to have because you can apply it to pretty much all contexts. Sam says, for assignment 3, the spec said we need to show days this year the listing has been booked for. Does that mean the maximum day is 365 and the minimum day is 0, considering there are date overlapping? Yes. I don't remember because Marina and I worked on this assignment, but she did the bulk of the really, like, she wrote the docs, right? So like I know what this assignment is because we like designed it together and I wrote half the spec or whatever the hell else. But I have this memory that I talked to her about bookings and we talked about not having overlapping bookings. Or at least, you know, not expecting students to worry about it because that got really, like, how would you have overlapping bookings? Oh, are you talking about like if someone books Tuesday to Thursday and someone books Thursday to Saturday kind of thing? And like that, oh yeah, okay, sorry, I was overcomplicating that. Yeah, it's even easier. Yeah, that's just counted as 5 days. Yeah, so if I book Tuesday to Thursday and someone books Thursday to Saturday, that's just Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 5 days. That's what that is. Yep. Yeah, so to your comment again, you know, to be honest, I found that the same user could book the same thing multiple times. You'll see this a lot with our backend. There's a lot of things that aren't checked. And again, the reason for that is just because general principle, when you make an assignment, is you want to write as little code as possible, as in me, because it's going to be hard to get it right. if you get it wrong, it's going to get it wrong for hundreds of people. It's going to be very confusing and stuff. So ideally, we don't even write it back in. Problem is, for us to expect you to use a real application, there needs to be some kind of server-side storage, because you have to store it somewhere, right? Like you can't just do everything in local storage, because you'll miss out on some kind of key learning skills, like the ability for like different systems and fetches and stuff. So we write a backend for you because we don't want to make you do that too, because that would be too much work. But we just expect you to use it properly, or not use it weirdly. That's the same reason you can like create a user who has like a email of blah. So we don't bother writing, we don't bother writing the checks for valid email, because we just expect you guys to do that. Because like if we write it, like nothing, like there is no learning outcome that like it's the more we write, the more likely it is we'll get it wrong, if that makes sense. Like it's just more stuff that might fail. So it's just like keep it really simple, because whether the backend verifies the email or not doesn't change what we expect you to do, doesn't change the outcome on your end. And yeah, occasionally it'll let you do something kind of weird, but that's kind of the trade-off we make. I've written lots of assignments in my life, and I've learned not to complicate things, because you end up in a lot of pain. Or at least students end up in a lot of pain, and then you end up in a lot of pain, and then you're all just crying together for different reasons. Anyway, that's just a bit of broad background. Shu, the spec 2.2.2 host listing create. Let me just pull that up. Property bedrooms, e.g. each bedroom could include number of beds and their type. Do we need to implement the feature in the brackets, or just the number of bedrooms and beds is fine? Well, sorry, the answer is to, the number of beds and bedrooms. Well, the way the spec's written, you need to do the number of beds and bedrooms at the least. The real question is, do you need to do the bed types? I would go so far as to say that I think your question is fair, because I think that the spec is not overtly clear that that's a hard requirement, because that should say like property bedrooms, and then it should just say in brackets each bedroom, or it should say IE or something that implies this is you have to do. Whereas I kind of get that when you read this, it actually says like you should have something with property bedrooms. As an example, something you could do is include the number of beds and their bed types if you want to. Like I get that that's worded like that, so yeah, we'd be lenient marking that if people didn't have the bed type, because I don't think that's like super clear. But the beds is kind of clear in the sense that, in 2.2.1, I should probably share my screen so people can see what I'm talking about. In 2.2.1, we do kind of say that you need to have the number of beds and stuff. So like here, it says, a screen of wish list where it's like the number of beds, not bedrooms. Yeah, that's a good question. Thanks for that. I'll make a note of that. For future times, not this time. If we implement bed type for each room, will it count for bonus marks? Yeah. I mean, anything that we don't count as required can be counted as bonus marks. So it's like, realistically, the bed type for each room is a very, very, I wouldn't expect that to move the dial much on the bonus marks. Marco says, I'm looking for ways to store token as a global variable. Is it correct I should use window for that? If you want to store things as a global variable, well, if you want things to be if you want things to be shared globally, you have a handful of options. You can use local storage. That's not a good design decision, but because it's so small in this assignment, it's okay. You could use context, which is like an okay solution. It's a bit more like formal and structured, though you wouldn't really use it for a giant project. you can use a proper state management tool, which is like included in the link. Lost my mouse, sorry. Which is included in the video I put up from Canva today. Here, state management. So that's quite kind of overkill. That's like, you know, trying to kill an ant with a brick or something for this kind of assignment. But we include it there anyway because students are always curious about it. And then the fourth way is just to anything that's global, like token, you can fetch in like your app.js, like your highest component, and then just pass it down to all the props that use the fetch. Right. So they're the 4 ways you can do it. And in general, I'd probably say that, you know, if you were my friend, not that you're not, but like if you were my friend and my friend was just like, oh, what should I do? Oh man, I'm so tired. I'd be like, just use local storage. It'll be easier. But other than that, I think you could explore the use context example. You could explore the props example. That's all good. Happy to help. Oh, are we down to like 5 people now? Oh no, 15. Oh, I just can't see it. Right. Okay, anything else? I always feel weird dragging these on because I know some people just hang around in Zoom calls until they end because they're worried they'll miss something, or because that's what you do. You hang around till the end. You know, like you go to a lecture and you just sit there not listening until it's over. Then you think, oh, it's time to go now. So I don't want to just sit here for another 20 minutes if you don't have questions, because I want people to get on with it. So I'll ask you one more time. If you have questions, post it in the next couple of minutes, and I'll just answer all those and we'll finish up. How's that sound? That might be a good compromise. Yeah, I mean, my recommendation with the assignment, again, if you know, just trying to be friendly, is like dev mobile first, number one. So do all your dev in the little view, because it's going to scale up much better than it'll scale down. So it's like you dev there first. Don't worry about styling or CSS because it's not worth a lot of marks and it can take a lot of time. If you use a component library, your page will look pretty okay just as it is, but like, you know, diminishing returns on getting CSS working. So just very functional, mobile first. It's kind of the main thing. Honestly, you just got to like a lot of it's just doing it. A lot of it's just kind of like doing it. You don't have to do the feature sets in order. They can be done in other orders. So you don't have to follow it bit for bit. You can kind of come back to stuff. Yeah. It's not like an assignment that takes like forever. But you know, there's work to do. So I think the worst thing would be yeah, I don't know. I would start and I would try and chip away at it every day. It's gonna be really hard for people who the worst thing I think anyone could do with this assignment is probably starting it like on Sunday evening. Like it's one of those like starting it's the hard things, because you start at the end of the weekend, you won't really get it. It'll be Monday will be over. It'll be like, you know, it's not the kind of thing that you can do 3 days out without a lot of pain and stress. Now, Nicholas asked a great question. Should we do testing as we go or leave it to the end once we finish? I would also recommend that you do testing at the end, because it's a new language for you and the testing is a new thing. And I don't think test-driven development makes sense when you're learning, because no one writes tests in a language they haven't, using syntax they haven't used, for another framework they haven't used. It's just not how anyone thinks. So just finish it and then try and write some tests and make sure those tests pass is probably my advice. because I think that's the best. I think that's the best and the easiest approach. But like, you know, go get those feature set marks, because accessibility, you have to kind of go and, you know, if you haven't watched the lectures, you have to go watch them. Testing, if you haven't watched the lectures, you have to go watch them. The usability, if you haven't spent the time with CSS, you have to go do it. All these things can take time. Whereas like all those marks for the feature sets and mobile responsiveness are all kind of just react in the same thing. So it's good to just go do them. That's why I kind of recommend that that's where you devote your time. So it's like, and also, you know, the average mark for assignment 2, I think, was like 75, and that's pretty standard. Like an assignment having an average mark of 75 is still a very high mark. So I'm just looking at a class here. Average mark across a couple classes was like, yeah, 75. Oh no. Yeah, sorry, I just saw something bad. So yeah, so again, it's like, you know, go into it being like, you know, my aim is to get, if I consider myself a, you know, just a fairly okay to good student, like, you know, my aim is to get 75% of the marks, start there, then focus in on getting the rest of it at the end. And a bunch of you just will not have the time or the experience or the knowledge to get that far, and that's totally okay. You know, you can't go into every assignment thinking you'll get everything out. It's just not a sustainable way to live. But you're doing great. I mean, you know, as I said to people, it's like you what is it, you know, 2 months ago, 9 weeks ago, a whole bunch of people here hadn't even heard of CSS, and now you're building dynamic web applications. So it's very easy to get lost in the mud and be like, oh, it's so hard, I don't get it, I'm struggling, I'm not very good. But it's like, no, by the very definition that you're still here and alive and kicking, everyone's doing exceptionally well. You know, don't let numbers or vanity metrics distract from the sheer extent to which you've learned and picked up skills over the last 10 weeks. Okay, well, let's wrap it up there. If you have any other questions, please post on the forum. Happy to help. We can sort everything out. And I'll be here this week, next week, and we'll get you through this last bit. And then the exam will be a breeze because it's 25% and it's on React. So you've already studied. You are studying for the exam right now. There's one good thing about 6080. Your exam is pretty low in the exam pain spectrum. So, you know, just got 10 more days, 9 more days to get through, and then we'll be over the last hurdle of the course. Anyway, I have a feeling many of you seem tired, so I hope you're okay. Or you're just kind of quiet. But have a great night, everyone. Look after yourselves and give me a buzz if you ever need anything.